Good evening, and thank you. Thank you already, Ron, for one bit of music. I'm David Howson. I'm the dean of the chapter, and I'm keeping my mask on. Can you understand me? Yes. Okay. I'm keeping my mask on just for a few moments to welcome you and make introductions, and then I will turn it completely over to Ronald. Um, First off, welcome. Glad that you all are here. I am recording this session to then be posted onto the site. And so I will ask you all to mute yourselves. I'll mute a few of you as well. There we go. Um, I will be recording this. So if you would not like to see your face on a recording broadcast for everyone to possibly see, I suggest you take off your video and your name will appear on the screen. Um, let's see. The other is please keep yourselves muted until times for question and answer, and then we'll have plenty of time to discuss with Ron and have questions. Let's see. I have not ever been here to St. Patrick's, and it is really lovely, and the organ is beautiful and sounds lovely. And I've also never met Ron in person, so I'm very happy to be here. I think he has a wealth of information and technique and skill to share with us. So um, please listen up, maybe have some paper to take notes, and yeah, enjoy. Also, if you have questions, remember to write down your questions for later, okay? Um, and Ron, would you like to say a few words about yourself and how you came to be a skilled improviser?
Well, first of all, thanks, David, for your kind words. I had never met David either, so that has been taken care of. I was dean of the DC chapter a long time ago, as some of you old timers may remember, so I know his predicament very well. More power to David. St. Patrick's Parish is the oldest parish in what was called the Federal City, going back to 1794. The current church was finished in 1885. There is still a few things left of the Barkhof organ of 1895, but the current instrument is an instrument by Lively Fulcher in 1994. French-inspired design that flourishes well in the generous acoustics of this church. I'm sure you can hear some of that. About myself, I'm a Dutchman who ended up through marriage in this country. Studied at the conservatory in The Hague and later in Paris. My improvisation adventures began when I was young and sort of messed around on the piano and later on the organ. In the Dutch Protestant tradition, improvisation takes a big place. The folks in the pews have a melody-only hymnal, and organists worth their salt are expected to be able to improvise harmonizations more or less at the spur of the moment. That's what asked for in exams as well. And besides that, there is opportunity for more or less extended hymn preludes. So that is how it all began. And of course, it's a little bit different here, but still enough opportunity for improvising. Now, I wanted to say a few things, not going to preach, although my statement has 3 points, as every good sermon does, of course. The first one is that it is always nice to work with a goal, whether it's about literature playing or improvising or anything else for that matter, And I did a little overview of the requirements for various HCO certificates. And improvisation there is always listed as part of keyboard skills, which also includes score reading, transposition, and figure and bass playing. And rightly so, because these things all have to do with each other. So it means that sooner or later in our improvisation career, we need to get a grip on keyboard harmony, common practice, functional harmony. Now, the good news is that it's not rocket science. The other news is that it turns out that it takes quite a while to get it in your fingers. I see that with my students at CUA, that takes time. But that's fine, you know, just be patient. Point two is that in our harmony adventures, we have a great anthology at our disposal in the form of the hymnal of the church where we are playing. There's a lot you can learn from those settings. And finally, it is allowed to pick up other people's ideas. Now, you know, don't think of my ideas, but think of somebody like Jean Alain, for instance. If you play a piece by Jean Alain and you claim it's your improvisation, that's fraud. But picking up some of his ideas and do nice things with them is a totally accepted practice in the music world. So anyway, with that, I have chosen a few hymns. Of course, it was the session was advertised as dealing with Lenten hymns, but there's not much Lent left, as you know. So we will do something for Holy Week, and then also venture into Easter. Remember when we had choir rehearsal? At this time of the year, we would be very busy with our Easter music as well. So I don't think that is inappropriate to focus on Easter hymns, right? Easter is 2 weeks from yesterday, so there we go. That little improvisation on All Glory, Love, and Honor that I played is basically a way to present the hymn slightly differently. So I begin with a little canon. So yeah, with the tonal answer. Now, little echo. Now, the same thing, but it would be nice to change the registration or play it in another octave. It's slightly different echo. Which are basically 6 chords. Right? You can make it a little bit longer, with a little coda if you need it. So it is a very simple way to present a hymn with a little counterpoint, a little rhythm, a little echo effects. So there's nothing really special about that, and you can do it with many hymns, right? And the advantage is that you know, a hymn like All Glory, Love, and Honor on Palm Sunday maybe it's not the right place to get into all sorts of wild adventures. It's a hymn that people know and want to hear. The same is true with Easter hymns, like Jesus Christ is risen today, uh, I would not turn it into messianic spectacle or something like that. That's for Palm Sunday. Then we are in Holy Week, and I was thinking of a very different hymn, uh, which is the wonderful hymn "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross." Now, as you know, Mendelssohn in the last movement of the Sixth Sonata wrote a piece that people believe was inspired by that hymn. I think it's more coincidence. But if we improvise our own Andante Religioso, we want, of course, to avoid it sounding too much like Mendelssohn. Well, maybe a little bit. Now, here is another basic approach to improvising on hymns, which I think is very helpful. And that is that in the melody, you look for a motive or two. Not more, a motive or two, and something that stands out, which makes it easier for the listener to follow you, makes it also easier for yourself because you can remember what's going on. Now, we all know this tune, right? So if you think, so this, for instance, would be a nice motive. Now, in improvising a simple form, it can be a good idea to make a one-part improvisation first. So don't worry too much about harmony, but worry about melody. So if you take this little motive, what happens if you transpose it to different degrees of the scale? Etc. So let me propose something. So we have a group here of 4 measures, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I said 4, there are 8 measures, of course. So that's a nice little phrase. It helps to just count those things out. I also honed some improvisational skills as a pianist for the ballet school of the conservatory in The Hague. And if you are familiar with ballet music, that it always goes in four bar units, right? So you better make sure that fits, because if you play 5, then everybody falls on their face. So we have our first 8 measures. Then, now let's make a second phrase of 8 measures. For instance, yeah? Now, if you harmonize that, you can keep it really simple. I got a better idea while I was playing for that second phrase. Now listen to this. Yeah. So you go to, you play it a couple of times, and you come up with something better every time, and then eventually it becomes your piece. So we have 16 measures now, right? That's enough to make you pass a CHGO exam, I think. If you want to make it into a three-part form with a contrasting B section, then you can take another part of the theme. And how about this? Or maybe turn it into minor. So maybe etc. And you come to the end. Maybe make it a little bit longer, deceptive cadence. Right, so you get a really simple three-part piece. And that is, believe it or not, that is enough to pass an FHGO exam with. So the idea is A, B is a contrasting part, especially in terms of keys, and then the repetition of A, and you can vary that a little bit. Now, on to Easter. There is this little hymn which I like very much, probably because it's Dutch. It's this hymn called, the tune is called Vruchten. It goes like this. Now, on the organ, there's always the tendency to play handsful of notes, you know, countless stops open. It is also nice every once in a while to lighten up a little bit. So how about just flutes 8 and 2, and then just a two-part setting of this. Just it's barely counterpoint. It's just a nice two-part setting, although it's tempting to have a little imitation there. And then the second time you do it the other way around. And it takes little to turn it into a three-part setting, basically using 6 chords. Of course, you want to make a little variation in there. just something else among all the Easter decibels. Now, finally, you were perhaps wondering, when is he going to show some of the stuff of his box of tricks? Well, there's this wonderful Easter hymn, O Filii et Filiae, or sons and daughters. You all know that, of course, from your organ pieces, right? Now, the nice thing of a tune like that is that it gives room, I think, to all sorts of different harmonic adventures. Let me give you an example. For instance, in your left hand, focus on minor triads. Same thing, and then make it a little bit thicker by playing the melody in parallel chords. If you do it long enough, I tell you, the right chords will somehow fall into your hands. Another way you can do it is, for instance, solo out the melody. And now, you use harmony not so much in a functional sense, but as color. And what you do is, you have, for instance, this note. Now, so a minor second down, sixth down. Always possible, instead of the usual major chord, add well, a sixth, which is a little triad, or add a second. That's nice, or perhaps both. Right? Monsieur Vierne did that already, so we don't need to be afraid of that. Now, those of you who have maybe a big chamade reed or something like that can have some fun with that too. We don't have that here, but we have a trumpet that fits the bill more or less. And then you can also put a rhythmic impulse in the whole thing. So the rhythmic impulse also helps to keep it interesting, right? To contrast, of course, what would an improvisation be without the Roi Celeste? Um, oh, 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 oh. It is, in general, of course, a good idea when you improvise to to give people an idea of the possibilities and the strong points of the organ that you're playing. So here we have at St. Patrick a beautiful flûte harmonique, which is a real flûte harmonique in the sense that it gets so strong in the treble that you can accompany it with itself, as it were. And some organs, of course, inspire you more to improvise than other organs. One of my favorites in town here is the organ at St. Matthew's Cathedral, and other lively Fulcer organ, very much larger instrument. Well, shameless self-promotion, but if you want to convince yourself of that, I'm playing there on April 18, and we'll improvise also. But even when you play an organ that is not so successful, you sometimes can get the best out of it by improvising. Because, you know, you can sort of pick and choose which stops really work, which stops don't, what is the best region in which the stop can play, avoid dead notes, avoid out of tune notes. In other words, you know, you can make the organ sound like $1,000,000. Anyway, I see it is 8 o'clock, so maybe it is time for a little question and answer session led by our excellent Dean.
So, if you would like to ask a question, just unmute yourselves. And I have a question for you.
Okay.
When you were doing on this last hymn, you were using the Celeste to accompany.
Yeah.
Were you using particular chords or a particular idea of moving to make the accompaniment?
Okay, so there are a couple of things that come to mind. You have, for instance, a simple triad, but you add a note to that. This is a simple, right? This is a simple dominant 6/5 chord. One thing you can do, keep that same bass note and have a dominant 7th chord within another inversion. So for instance, this is the plain old one, right? Plain old dominant 7th chord. This is a dominant 7th chord, first inversion on the same bass note. This is the same bass note, but now we have a 4/3 as second inversion. And now we have a third inversion. Right? They're all dominant 7th chords, but in different regions. Another thing you can do is you have a melody note, for instance. right? Now, you keep the same melody note, but now it becomes, and this is a major chord, but now it's the third of the chord here. Now it becomes the fifth of the chord here. And now it becomes the root of this chord. So, and you can do the same thing with minor chords. So in other words, this is what happens. So that gives you a little bit of something to hold on to, right? You don't have to invent all those new chords. You just keep the same chord and see what you can do with it. Now, of course, there are all the the chords that we know from the Messiaen scales. But it is nicer, I think, to sort of develop your own thing. One thing I wanted to say that I forgot is the whole idea of organ points. We think of organ points as long notes in the bass, but they can also be long notes in middle voices. In the music of Jean Alain, you find many examples of that. It makes for very effective harmony to do that, I think. All right, answer your question?
Yes.